in Canadian political history. Even if you grew up in Canada and managed to sleep through every history class, you've probably at least heard the last part of this exchange.
Sir, what is it with all these men with guns around here?
Haven't you noticed?
Yeah, I've noticed them. Why were you people decided to have them?
What's your worry?
I'm not worried, but you
So if
seem
you're
to
not
be.
worried, what's your... I know.
I'm worried about living in a town that's full of people with guns running around.
Are you? Have they done anything to you? Have they pushed you around or anything?
They've pushed around friends of mine,
Yeah? What were your friends doing?
trying to take pictures of them.
Aha!
Is that against the law?
No, not at all. Well, they were...
Doesn't it worry you having a town that you've got to resort to this kind of thing?
It doesn't worry me. I think it's natural that if people are being abducted, that they be protected against such abduction. What would you do if a Quebec minister, another Quebec minister were abducted, or a federal minister?
This all goes on for another couple of minutes. The Prime Minister and the reporters debating in real time what gives the FLQ a greater sense of victory. Troops in the streets or security as usual, and where it all leads.
Yeah, and I'm suggesting that the more recognition you give to them, the greater their victory is, and I'm not interested in giving them a victory. But
Well, isn't surely
a proposition that perhaps it is would be wise to use less inflammatory terms than bandits when you talk about a bunch of people who have the lives of 2 men in their hands.
You don't think they're bandits?
The exchange concludes with what might be the most famous footage in Canadian political history.
No, I still go back to the choice that you have to make in the kind of society that you live in.
There's a lot of bleeding hearts around who just don't like to see people with helmets and guns. All I can say is go on and bleed, but it's more important to keep law and order in this society than to be worried about weak-kneed people who don't like the looks of
At any cost? At any cost? How far would you go with that? How far would you extend that?
Just watch me.
Just watch me. In the arena, heavyweights of the Quebec left would take turns at the mic.
Ce soir, ici, le FLQ Saint-Vous.
Pierre Valliere, the spiritual leader of the FLQ, and recently out of jail, would say of the crowd that on that night they were the FLQ. He urged them to preach the message of the organization in their own circles.
Mais tant mieux, je suis bien content. Robert Lemieux s'en vient.
Then Robert Lemieux took to the stage.
Comme Pierre-Paul le dit, en parlant de lui-même et des gars du front, nous sommes l'amorce d'une plus grosse amorce.
Lemieux quoted Pierre-Paul Geoffroy, a convicted FLQ bomber who now had the heroic aura of a Che Guevara.
Le gouvernement s'est fouté de la quasi-totalité du peuple québécois qui parle
Lemieux ended his speech by denouncing what he thought was the bad faith of the government in negotiations. Robert Demers remembers watching Lemieux on television.
Lemieux, with a couple thousand of students and others chanting FLQ, FLQ, and so on. Everybody realized that the situation was getting to a point where it was very dangerous.
So Bourassa called a meeting with Demers and the heads of police for both the province and the city of Montreal. Back in May, the U.S. National Guard had opened fire on an anti-war protest at Kent State University in Ohio. 4 unarmed students were killed. Another 9 were injured. Watching the rally at the Paul Sauvé Arena, police worried the same could happen here.
And they said, you know, if this thing goes on, we will be confronted with the same problems. Our officers are working day and night. They're getting tired. So an accident can easily occur.
War Measures Act. It did so at 4 a.m. this morning in order to permit the full weight of government to be brought quickly to bear on all those persons advocating or practicing violence as a means of achieving political ends. The War Measures Act gives sweeping powers to the government. It also suspends the operation of the Canadian Bill of Rights.
It's safe to say that up until this moment, most Canadians have never heard of the War Measures Act. It dates back to 1914, and this is only the third time in Canadian history that the act has been proclaimed. World War I, World War II, and October 16, 1970.
The police have therefore been given certain extraordinary powers necessary for the effective detection and elimination of conspiratorial organizations which advocate the use of violence. These organizations and membership in them have been declared illegal. The powers include the right to search and arrest without warrant, to detain suspected persons without the necessity of laying specific charges immediately, and to detain persons without bail. These are strong powers.
I just finished up the drill for the Finnish Brutality. I've done it once a day for the last several days. In the evening after I'm done work, I go into the camp and try to get it off. At least one attempt. And it's pretty tough in the snow, especially it doesn't matter what the conditions are actually. The first day I went in, the snow was fairly deep, so it was hard to move around. Then it got quite a bit milder, so then the snow was heavy to move through. Then, for instance, today we've gone back into a much colder conditions, like -20, and everything's rock hard. So it's not really pleasant dropping down to prone to shoot. I always like this time of year. Spring is not too far. There's still, you're able to get out in the bush a bit more. You don't sink up to your waist in snow. And you can really see things starting to progress. I really enjoy it. Signs of life starting to reappear. Fires feel really good in the cold evenings too. I was kind of thinking about the way it works, and I really enjoy shooting. I like competitions of all types. It's nice to be able to challenge yourself. You always learn something, to be able to become a bit better skilled. It's a great thing. Unfortunately, we in the firearms sports are not really looked upon very favorably, especially here in Canada, where we have a Prime Minister who's so Machiavellian. He only is really concerned about what meets his political needs. He rules us as if he were king. He's confiscating firearms from thousands of owners across the country. Their intention is to buy back something that they never sold. AR-15s from owners all over the country. That was my preferred rifle. Was the AR. I use it for service rifle matches, other competitions. Well, it's very popular 3-gun here. Well, that's a thing of the past. So now we're trying to move to other platforms. For the challenge of the Finnish Brutality, I used a version of the 180, the AR-180B, a Canadian version that uses AR mags and similar controls. They work quite well, really. Still not quite as nicely as an AR, but sufficient. For all intents and purposes, they're pretty much an equivalent. A semi-automatic, small caliber rifle, much like the AR, but deemed by government and media to be so scary that we're not allowed to possess it. Well, actually, we are allowed to keep it. We're just not allowed to use it legally, as they say, which is ridiculous. Meanwhile, the gangbangers and the criminals keep on doing whatever they want. I'm not sure where all this is going to end. If we stacked on top of the COVID isolation, the curfews, the lockdowns, and all the other nonsense associated with a fairly, well, in my experience, a not very harmful virus. I don't know how much more freedom people are willing to give up. I certainly have my limitations. I was listening recently to a documentary about the October crisis, and it was kind of interesting to listen to our current Prime Minister's father and the way he nonchalantly took away the rights of people at that time. I guess the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Anyways, thanks a lot for putting this on. I really enjoyed it. And hopefully there's some other challenges that you can put out. People can, like myself, who are kind of limited in access to competitions anymore, maybe we can get out and have a bit of fun. Thanks again. Out.